Practical Vedanta, Part 3, Text 4. The monistic theory has this merit that it is the most rational of all the religious theories that we can conceive of. Every other theory, every conception of God, which is partial and little and personal, is not rational. And yet monism has this grandeur that it embraces all these partial conceptions of God as being necessary for many. Some people say that this personal explanation is irrational, but it is consoling. They want a consoling religion, and we understand that it is necessary for them. The clear light of truth very few in this life can bear, much less live up to. It is necessary, therefore, that this comfortable religion should exist. It helps many souls to be a better one. Small minds whose circumference is very limited and which require little things to build them up never venture to soar high in thought. Their conceptions are very good and helpful to them, even if only of little gods and symbols. But you have to understand that impersonal, for it is in and through that alone that these others can be explained. Take, for instance, the idea of a personal God. A man who understands and believes in the impersonal, John Stuart Mill, for example, may say that a personal God is impossible and cannot be proved. I admit with him that a personal God cannot be demonstrated, but he is the highest reading of the impersonal that can be reached by the human intellect. And what else is the universe but various readings of the Absolute? It is like a book before us, and each one has brought his intellect to read it, and each one has to read it for himself. There is something which is common in the intellect of all men. Therefore, certain things appear to be the same of the intellect of mankind. That you and I see a chair proves that there is something common to both our minds. Suppose a being comes with another sense, he will not see the chair at all. But all beings similarly constituted will see the same things. Thus this universe itself is the absolute, the unchangeable, the noumenon, and the phenomenon consists the reading thereof. For you will first find that all phenomena are finite. Every phenomena that we can see, feel, or think of is finite, limited by our knowledge, and the personal God, as we conceive of him, is in fact a phenomena. The very idea of causation exists only in the phenomenal world, and God as the cause of this universe must naturally be thought of as limited, and yet he is the same impersonal God. This very universe, as we have seen, is the same impersonal being read by our intellect. Whatever is reality in the universe is that impersonal being, and the forms and conceptions are given to it by our intellects. Whatever is real in this table is that being, and the table form and all other forms are given by our intellects. Now, motion, for instance, which is a necessary adjunct of the phenomenal, cannot be predicated of the universal. Every little bit, every atom inside the universe is in a constant state of change and motion. But the universe as a whole is unchangeable, because motion or change is a relative thing. We can only think of something in motion in comparison with something which is not moving. There must be two things in order to understand motion. The whole mass of the universe taken as a unit cannot move. In regard to what will it move? It cannot be said to change. With regard to what will it change? So the whole is the absolute, but within it every particle is in a constant state of flux and change. It is unchangeable and changeable at the same time, impersonal and personal in one. This is our conception of the universe, of motion, and of God, and that is what is meant by thou art that. Thus we see that the impersonal, instead of doing away with the personal, the absolute, instead of pulling down the relative, only explains it to the full satisfaction of our reason and heart. The personal God and all that exists in the universe are the same impersonal beings seen through our minds. When we shall be rid of our minds, our little personalities, we shall become one with it. This is what is meant by Thou art that. For we must know our true nature, the Absolute. The finite manifested man forgets his source and thinks himself to be entirely separate. We, as personalized, differentiated beings, forget our reality. And the teaching of monism is not that we shall give up these differentiations, but we must learn to understand what they are. We are in reality that infinite being, and our personalities represent so many channels through which this infinite reality is manifesting itself. And the whole mass of changes, which we call evolution, is brought about by the soul trying to manifest more and more of its infinite energy. We cannot stop anywhere on this side of the infinite. Our power, the blessedness, and wisdom cannot but grow into the infinite. Infinite power and existence and blessedness are ours, and we have not to acquire them. They are our own, and we have only to manifest them. This is the central idea of monism, and one that is so hard to understand. From my childhood, everyone around me taught weakness. I have been told ever since I was born that I was a weak thing. It is very difficult for me now to realize my own strength, but by analysis and reasoning, I gain knowledge of my own strength. I realize it. All the knowledge that we have in this world, where did it come from? It was within us. What knowledge is outside? None. Knowledge was not in matter, it was in man all the time. Nobody ever created knowledge. Man brings it from within. It is lying there. The whole of that big banyan tree, which covers acres of ground, was in the little seed which was perhaps no bigger than 1/8 of a mustard seed. All that mass of energy was there confined. The gigantic intellect we know lies coiled up in the protoplasmic cell. And why should not the infinite energy? We know that it is so. It may seem like a paradox, but is true. Each one of us has come out of one protoplasmic cell, and all the powers we possess were coiled up there. You cannot say they came from food, for if you heap up food mountains high, what power comes out of it? The energy was there, potentially no doubt, but still there. So is infinite power in the soul of man, whether he knows it or not. Its manifestation is only a question of being conscious of it. Slowly, this infinite giant is, as it were, waking up, becoming conscious of his power and arousing himself with his growing consciousness, more and more of his bonds are breaking. Chains are bursting asunder, and the day is sure to come when, with the full consciousness of his infinite power and wisdom, the giant will rise to his feet and stand erect. Let us all help to hasten that glorious consummation.